Hey everybody, Brian Zane here, and it's time for the old Smackdown review live here on Wrestling with Regret. It is Friday, October 16th, and it's the season premiere of Smackdown. That's what we're building toward tonight. It's the first Smackdown after the draft has come and gone. They say the landscape is noticeably different than before, which is, okay, if that's the language you want to use, it's your company. You do what you want, whatever verbiage you find to be at peace with. And it's bigger and better than before. I am Brian Zane. I am your unofficial, unconfirmed, unauthorized WCW Hardcore Champion of Wrestling with Regret. And we are off to a big start here tonight on SmackDown. The roster's on stage. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon are in the ring, and they welcome everyone to the show. And they announce some matches for the night. Talk about the New Day's farewell. Triple H busts out a Rick James impression out of nowhere. Didn't see that in my 2020 bingo card, as they often say. And Daniel Bryan's Thunderdome debut and whatnot. Let's just name some guys. We'll name call some people, and they will just kind of come up to the stage and pose for a minute. And then suddenly Rugler start fighting the Street Profits, and they brawl their way down to the ramp. A whole ass brawl breaks out with all of the male talent, the male roster there on the stage, and it ends up with Lars Sullivan showing up. And he's so mad you think someone turned him down in his advances in the DMs. He was fighting mad here. He was just beating up everybody until finally Jeff Hardy shows up and dumps him out of the ring and his music plays. That was a good opening bit for the show, because season premiere, you want to start off with a bang and have kind of like this is almost kind of like a welcome or an introductory thing for new fans, however many of those there are at this point. I do love a good roster brawl, so I thought it was an okay way to open the show. We go to our first matchup here. It's Jeff Hardy and Lars Sullivan. And the first thing we see is a highly pixelated Jeff Jarrett, but for all I know, could have been Homer Simpson because the quality was so bad. See that guy in the middle there on that screen? That's Jeff Jarrett, Hall of Famer, and he's here tonight in the Thunderdome. Get used to that because you see it a lot tonight with a lot of different people. And each one tells a story, folks. Each one tells a different story. Usually one of horror and misery. I really hope that's not a recurring thing as we go through more Thunderdome stuff. I hope it's just a one-time thing because it's season premiere. We get one more night of it on Raw out of our system, and then we're done. Lars Sullivan and Jeff Hardy happen here. The announcers cannot stop calling Lars Sullivan the Freak. I'm trying to think of the last time I can vividly remember them really trying to hammer home like a nickname over and over again. I think the most egregious to me for a long time was Glamazon for Beth Phoenix. It's a pretty old reference, and I'm sure there's been more blatant pushes for nicknames and getting them over in more recent times, but Glamazon's the one that really sticks with me as well. So we get it. He's the Freak. He no-sells he kicks out at one at Whisper in the Wind, no-sells a Twist of Fate, and then he's the Freak. What did I write in my notes? He no-sells the Twist of Freak, the Freak Accident from the Freak to Freak Hardy, Freaky Deaky Lars, Freak Solo Freak wins the Freak. I mean the match. It was, they're really piling on with that nickname there. And Jeff Jarrett, boy, he looks disappointed, doesn't he? They cut back to him, he's just like, you go done pissed me off. It's the worst. It could have been anyone. I could have been on there and they could have said it was Jeff Jarrett. I bet half the audience would have believed them. It was so bad. Get some better lighting is all I'm going to say. Some of our guests later on will have much better lighting and it's much more. I think he was shooting that on his Nokia. This is where the camera was coming from on that. We get our New Day farewell. The New Day take on Cesaro, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Sheamus, and it's crazy how much individual history a lot of those guys have with the New Day. In fact, they even say on commentary, Cesaro's kind of been feuding with the New Day since their beginning, like back when Cesaro was teaming with Tyson Kidd back in 2015. So how ironic is it for the first time in a year we get the full New Day intro, but it's only for the last time. For now, you get the trombone, you get Xavier there. Xavier's holding the mic like that. It's very, very classic New Day. They bust out a lot of the old catchphrases, but not before they've got their pre-match farewell speech. They're clearly getting emotional. I thought it was pretty good. There's, they had a hard time getting through some of that stuff, and maybe it doesn't feel as special or doesn't feel right because of the canned nature of the Thunderdome. You kind of wish you had some like real human beings to witness that, because that feels like something that the fans need to be there in person for. Because if it weren't for the fans, then like the New Day would not have become the force of nature that they've been for the last 6 years. So you really hate to see that. Kind of like it's one of those missed opportunities, unfortunately. But there's been a lot of those this year, am I right? So also I have to pop for their Nickelodeon themed gear they're wearing on the evening, and Big E's singlet's got a reference to his classic line from the podcast, "Big meaty men slapping meat." Awesome. It's a great match. These 6 guys, all insanely athletic and dynamic individuals in the ring, so I think it really fit the bill for a farewell match for the New Day. It really played into their wheelhouse for the match here. We get the up, up, down, down on Shamoose for the New Day to win, and they get their big hug at the end. We didn't get any swerves. It wasn't a thing where it was like the arms raised and boom, clothesline, someone turns heel. We didn't get that. So that was nice for it to end on a positive, peaceful, amicable note, so to speak. So I'm glad it ended that way. I guess it was, we could be talking about better ways to book the end of the New Day, but I think for them to do it peacefully is probably the best thing they could have done. I would have hated for them to be end in acrimony or something like that. I wish them all the best, and they've been such a major force in the company for the last 5 years. They've been around for 6, but they didn't really get over till at the end of year 1, essentially. So God, they're so big. Like they became just this huge merchandising cash cow. They were so unavoidable, almost to the point of excess. And there's some people in the chat I can see right now saying, "Oh, thank God the New Day are finally broken up." And yeah, it's I think the act has gone about as far as it can. But it's it was a genuine thing where I think the fans went along for the ride in their initial ascent as the goofy heels that they were doing that got them over so popular in the first place. So in a way, they will be missed. They have been missed as a trio for a year since Xavier got hurt. So, backstage, though, we see Otis being interviewed about his lawsuit with The Miz, which, again, I guess they're pushing that back another week. They're going to keep doing that until we forget about it, I think. Sami Zayn shows up and berates Otis and calls him a loser, and Otis just and shoves him down. And Sami's got the most incredulous, what the fuck look on his face. What did I do to deserve that? So I guess we're going to have a Sami and Otis little program at this point. Assuming we're going to get to the lawsuit, is that ever going to happen? They even had the suits on last week, and it's nope, not happening. You saw nothing. Daniel Bryan's in the Thunderdome. We get a virtual yes chant, which, of all of the fake chants in the Thunderdome I've been hearing in the last couple of weeks, and the Capitol Wrestling Center for that matter, I think this one felt right. It's it's still weird, but at least the whole audience was in on it, and you could see the Thunderdome people doing the yes chant. So on one level, it kind of feels like it's back. I don't know. I think it's that Stockholm Syndrome thing, where we kind of we've come to accept our fate, our new virtual world. It's all right, we're just gonna stare at blurry ass LEDs for the next 2 years. So anyway, Daniel's there. Oh yeah, and speaking of the faces we see on the Thunderdome, Brie Bella and their first child is there on the screen, and Daniel has to interact with it, which is the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my life. So then he's he kind of, Daniel almost feels like he's first of all, he's dressed I think he's wearing the same outfit he was when he came back. Or definitely it was a GM look for him, because he was acting like a GM. It was look at these great stars we have here on our show. I'm so excited to see these guys. And you also go, yeah, I want to wrestle some of these guys too, but mostly look at our wide range of talent. And so he was very selling SmackDown and not so much himself. But I guess that's Bryan's character. He's a selfless man. He's interrupted by the Messiah, Seth Rollins, they call him now. I forget the name of the viewer who commented on Monday. I wish I could credit them, but someone said they call him the Friday Night Friar, which I think would be amazing. But he's just called the Messiah now, not the Monday Night Messiah anymore. So Rollins interrupts, looking like a proper anime villain with his blazer and no shirt, the black glove, the dress shoes with no socks, and he basically threatens Daniel Bryan, saying, you're either with me or you're against me. Daniel says, this whole thing you're doing with the Messiah is kind of dumb. It's a little bit dumb, Seth. Kind of dumb. And Seth, he can't stand that. Don't you dare use the D word to talk about me. So he hits Daniel, but Daniel comes back. Then out comes Rey and Dominic Mysterio. So they all corner Seth, and then Murphy shows up. Whose side is he on? He takes down Seth, so we know that he's broken off from Seth now. And he and the Mysterios chase off Seth. Murphy puts his hand out there, and Rey and Dominic both say, F you, and they leave. And so, I thought the segment, it was fine. Good way to reintroduce Bryan to the Thunderdome. Like, I was kind of expecting a match, is what I felt they were advertising. Like, he's back in the Thunderdome. Like, wrestling, hopefully? No, just talking. But, build to that at least, I guess. We also get the next chapter in the whole Rollins-Murphy-Mysterio saga. Murphy has officially turned for now, it seems, like having beat up his former boss. He still hasn't earned the trust of the Mysterios. You still got to think maybe this is a ruse. Like, where will the deception, how far will it go? So that's kind of where we're at now with this angle. So this was kind of a lateral move, since it's fresh start, landscape drastically different now is what they're saying here. Jay Glazer from Fox Sports, or NFL and Fox, talking about the draft. It was during this segment that I realized, like, oh man, like, they have put over Bianca Belair like every possible segment they can. Bianca is like, she's the future of the women's division. She's gonna be this big star. Everyone, in some form or fashion, is hyping up Bianca Belair. Daniel Bryan does it. Corey Graves does it. Jay Glazer does it in that cutaway. They've done at least one vignette about her on this show. Everyone's talking about it. So it's like, man, that's a lot of expectations on Bianca Belair. I think she's great, and yes, I think that I agree with Corey's statement specifically, where in a year's time she will be the champion there. I agree with that 100%, but man, that's like really kind of like hitting you over the head with that. It's a lot of expectations, hopefully no pressure for Bianca there. Our next match for the Smackdown Tag Titles, as Wregret challenged the Street Profits, who were the Raw champs, now they're the Smackdown champs. It's all very confusing. Boy, how do Dolph and Rude keep getting these title shots when they lose all the fucking time? Like, I've never seen a bigger couple of losers in the scheme of like them just like in the tag division, yet they seem to constantly get tag title matches, which shows you how fucking shallow the tag team scene across both shows are. You gotta love it though. Ric Flair is our next star in the Thunderdome, and for a while I thought that his screen was frozen because he was just in this permanent like smile mode the whole time. Like, you couldn't focus on the in-ring stuff, which is fine because the match ended in a DQ within minutes, but it was just like seeing Flair, you're like trying to lock eyes with him and see what he's doing. It was very distracting. I think like that's a big... Stop doing that, guys. This experiment they're doing, in many ways, this does not work. So, ends in a DQ when Wregret ignore the referee's count. They hit Dawkins with a spinebuster zigzag combo, which looks like they could fuck it up pretty easily. But then Ford dives with a big high jump onto both of them. I assume we're getting a rematch of the pay-per-view now. That's the way I'm interpreting that moment there. Contract signing time. These things can either go great or go meh. This one was somewhere between great and meh. I don't want to call it great, but it was better than meh. So we got Adam Pearce moderating this thing. And, speaking of guys who don't get put in the best light on a week-to-week basis, Adam Pearce, like, how does he still have a job? Because, like, in so many situations you see him where he constantly just screws something up, or, like, something falls out of his control. It's like, damn it, skunked again. Like, Adam, you got to get some control, man. So, Sasha signs first and has a big rant about Bayley. Well, first Bayley says, Sasha's upset because, I turned on you before you could turn on me. I beat you to the punch. That's why you're upset. And so Sasha, says, if I wanted to turn on you, I would have done it years ago. Friends don't turn on each other. Talks about how, when you were the last one left behind in NXT, who was the first person to bring you up as a tag team partner? It was me. Who's always been by your side, who's been helping you retain the championship for so many days? It's been me. Then after Sasha finishes her speech, and by the way, I think the speech was good because I liked how they referred back to the NXT thing, how she was the last one to come up on an official basis, and you could see Bayley, like, her demeanor change when that was brought up, and whether that was like her being kind of like she was kind of playing it up as a heel because to try and like be like, psych, I don't really feel bad about that. Or, or her character legitimately still is sore about that. And I think that, that's a good little... It's great to keep talking about that personal history in the past. Like, go farther back than just like the last year or so. Yeah, go way back to NXT stuff, man. Like, I think that's way more important. And I hope we can get some kind of good video package on that for like Hell in a Cell at the very least. So anyway, Bayley refuses to sign the contract. That's the thing. She doesn't sign and she leaves. How can this legal matter be resolved? Again, how has Adam Pearce not been fired for all this kayfabe inability to get a handle on literally any situation? Like, he is just... It's hard to call him like an authority figure because like he does like make some proclamations, but he's not given a really big title besides official, but he's like the guy. So I don't know. He's just not a great authority figure, I would say. In the fun, he's got his moments, I guess. In your main event of the evening, Roman Reigns defends the Universal Championship against Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman. He's wearing camo and has gloves, man. Goldberg and Keith Lee are in the Thunderdome watching this. They're just letting everyone in. Anyone with a password can just get in and register. There's no problem. What happens to the other people who lose their spots in the Thunderdome? Getting pushed aside for these part-timers. Come on. That was a fan-friendly interactive experience. More of the same big physical action we've come to expect from these guys. I wish they'd spent more time building up their history. Like, we got a lot of build of like people giving predictions and stuff like that, but I think it would have been cool to show like a quick, 30-second hype package of like the shit they did like 2 or 3 years ago when they were like hitting each other with cars and crushing each other with heavy machinery and whatnot. Just like show that wild stuff. I think, although if they did that, it would have been really disappointing to then watch this match and see none of that. Maybe that was why they didn't do it. So, Strowman kind of overpowers Roman for a while. Like, it's a big Godzilla fight, basically. When these two fight, like, everything, the whole dynamic of the match changes. We get the choke slam by Strowman. He says he's not finished with him. Goes to the cover. We get that kick out with a low blow the ref doesn't see. What happened at Clash of Champions? Roman hits a spear. Braun kicks out. Roman's thrown up into the air, but he drops down and catches Braun in a guillotine. And he comes down with it, and Braun eventually taps, which is crazy because, like, A, how often do you ever see Roman Reigns win with a submission? B, have you ever seen Braun submit? And man, like, if this doesn't mean that Raw Underground is dead and buried, to see, like, the guy who eventually beat Dabba-Kato tapping out in, like, a, big, shoot guillotine or whatever, I don't know what is. Raw Underground, that's the end for Raw Underground. Jey Uso then shows up after the match, and Roman beckons him to watch what he's about to do. Like, he gives Jey another chance to reconsider, challenging him for the title. And he says, if I could do this to him, imagine what I'm going to do to you. This is you on Hell in a Cell. He beats a chef, Strowman with a chair. He tells Jey that he loves Jey. Like, he gives him the chair. Basically, turns his back to. He lets Jey have a chance at him, but Jey doesn't want to do it. But he ends up popping him in the mouth, and then with a super kick, big pull apart brawl. Roman hits the Superman punch, and you can see he looks really heartbroken. Like, man, I have to kill my own flesh and blood. I have to murder them at Hell in a Cell in order to be respected as the tribal chief. And that's how we end. Like, they're making Roman look so sadistic and just plain evil in this. Like, it's like you're watching a car crash in slow motion where you can see it coming and it's going to be horrific, but it's like, you got to be along for the ride here. It's going to be hard to watch at Hell in a Cell. I would imagine it's going to be that's going to be emotional. That's going to be like, they're going to draw that out in only the way, a master storyteller like Paul Heyman can. Give it a B-, and it's really on the strength of the New Day segment and the match. There's some emotional weight to that, I believe. I appreciate it, and the match itself was great. The contract signing I thought was done well enough. I think, again, Sasha's speech I think was pretty good. I think probably the best promo she's had since the split happened. And the main event segment with the beatdown afterward with Reigns and Strowman, that was pretty good. The Nothing tag title match and the guests on the screen was super distracting and just like it didn't get the reaction that I think, out of me at least, that I think it was intended. It was pretty weird looking for sure. I just want to let y'all know that next week I will be taking a break from the Smackdown review. I'm not going to be doing it because that same day I'm going to be going live already with this little number. This is going to be happening Friday at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. It is the live watch party and riffing of Just Another Romantic Wrestling Comedy, starring April Hunter, who's going to be one of my guests on the panel, and Chyna, and Don Fry, and no one else you've heard of is in this movie, acting or wrestling or otherwise, except maybe for Kenya Suda. But that's happening. Colt Cabana is going to be my guest as well, and we're going to try and do next Friday what we could not do in Tampa, and have a good old time riffing this really, really terrible movie. If you've not seen my review of the movie from a couple of years ago, go check that out to give you a bit of a primer. This movie is available in its entirety on YouTube, so you can also prep for that, or you can do a watch along. We can even have you guys queue it up and watch along in horror